Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Cheney Pope, and I'm the Communications Manager at the Desmoid Tumor Research Foundation. As you know, tomorrow is Rare Disease Day, and that's one of the reasons why we're here. Even though Rare Disease Day is only one day each year, at the DTRF, we will continue to raise awareness every day on behalf of the desmoid tumor patient community. Thank you to our event sponsor, SpringWorks Therapeutics, for supporting this live event. We encourage you to visit our website for resources and facts to help you raise funds for research efforts and amplify messaging about desmoid tumors all year long. Now, we've arrived at the moment we've all been waiting for. I'm excited to introduce you to our special guest, Amy, who will be sharing her journey as a woman, wife, and mother of three while she lives with a desmoid tumor. Remember, the desmoid tumor patient and caregiver experience is vast and varied. What works for one patient and caregiver may not work for another. When you listen today, maybe the specifics of Amy's journey are different from your own experience, but we ask you to listen to what resonates with you. Please feel free to share comments and questions in the chat. After our conversation with Amy, we'll highlight a few of those questions. Now, let's welcome Amy to the conversation. Hi, Amy.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, we're so excited. I've been waiting for this day and for us to chat with, and everybody watching, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for giving your time, Amy. This is such a treat for all of us.
I'm really excited.
Yeah. So we're just going to have a conversation, and let's start at the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about your desmoid tumor diagnosis? How old were you? And when did you start noticing symptoms?
Okay, so I was 27. I was pregnant with my second child. We had to do IVF to conceive her, and about 7 months in, I noticed something. I was having a hard time going pee, going to the bathroom. And at first, they're like, you have a UTI, you have kidney stones, and they were treating me for all these different things. And it was it was my 7-month mark when they were like, oh, we're going to have to do an exam and see what's going on. And that's when they were like, oh my gosh, something's in there. Yeah.
And I know that, some of the symptoms, like you said, were misdiagnosed as other things. Just tell me a little bit more about that reaction at first, and kind of the roller coaster of emotions that I can only assume that was at 7 months pregnant.
Yeah, it was really scary because I knew something. I kept going back. I'm like, this isn't right. And they're like, well, try this. I was on antibiotics for a long time. And I'm like, this isn't working. Something is wrong. And I had a little bit of complications with my pregnancy. She was breech. I had placenta previa. So they weren't able to check me because of fear of something happening. And I'm grateful that they eventually did, because that's when they found it. But it was terrible when she was like, she was like, uh-oh. And I was like, what? And she's like, we need you to see an oncologist. And that's kind of the start of my journey.
Absolutely. And I think, to circle back to kind of the beginning of noticing those symptoms, where was your desmoid tumor located? How did, obviously within the pregnancy it was found, but as far as where it's located when it was diagnosed compared to now too?
So my desmoid originally was just in my vagina, and on my right side. And then it got removed and it came back, and then it came back stemming from my vagina it's between my vagina and my rectum.
Okay. Yeah. And in such a little location that's so sensitive and with a lot of nerve endings, obviously, and then being pregnant, how did you feel on a daily basis? What were the symptoms like, in those next 2 months of your pregnancy?
I was terrified. It was so scary. But so the tumor has a specific feel to it. And it's like a burny, itching feeling. And then it's touches nerves, and then you get the shooting pains, and it's very achy. So there's a very particular field to desmoid tumors. And I've noticed when I spoke to other desmoid tumor patients, they're like, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I'm feeling. I was like, it's like when you have a burn and it itches really bad, and it's very strange. So I was dealing with that for the remainder, along with, pregnancy symptoms in my third trimester. And yeah, it was scary that when they took it, even when they took the baby out, my daughter out, it took another 4 months for them to come back and say that it was a desmoid tumor. So we were still in the dark for so long.
Absolutely. And obviously that's, what your experience is and what we hear a lot from patients and caregivers about the nuance of this disease and all the unknowns and living in that gap of this is what we think it is. We don't know definitively. So tell me a little bit, who do you rely on in those moments when you're sitting in that unknown?
Yeah, so my husband, for sure. My family is a big support system for me. They don't let me go to appointments by myself. Even if it's just a very simple appointment, I have somebody there with me all the time. Sorry, I don't know.
It's all right.
Something back there. And so my husband's with me 90% of the time. And if he's not, my mom, my dad, my sisters, even my brothers have gone with me. Some surgeries where the kids they were with my husband, and my grandma was in the hospital, and my brother, God love him, came and stayed with me overnight in the hospital. So nobody lets me do this alone, which is really wonderful.
Fantastic. So obviously you said you safely delivered your daughter
Yeah.
after your diagnosis, and it wasn't even definitive at the time, but 3 months after you got the news that it was in fact a desmoid tumor. Tell us a little bit about your family planning. You mentioned IVF when you conceived your daughter, but how many kids do you have? And tell us a little bit more about the family planning process while living with a desmoid tumor.
Okay, so originally they think my tumor came from when I gave birth to my son. So I have a 10-year-old son, and I was able to conceive him naturally. And when I delivered him, they told me I had severe internal bruising. I didn't know it at the time what all that meant. I was just like, okay, this is just going to be a rougher healing process. And then we did IVF, and we got pregnant for my daughter, and we got pregnant with her, and we had 4 embryos total. So we used the one for her, and then I had to freeze 3. And I have so she is 8.5 now. And we decided that we wanted to have more. Unfortunately, I'm not able to carry anymore due to my tumor and how quickly it grows with hormones. Even though it's not only hormone receptive, hormones seem to really activate it. So my daughter, who is 3.5, was born via surrogacy. And so we actually have one more embryo left. So we're still in our surrogacy journey. we're looking for a surrogate for our last embryo.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing those details, because I know it's going to help a lot of women out there that are thinking about having children and considering, all the options they may have and wanting to get the right resources. I definitely encourage any desmoid tumor patients out there considering family planning, please reach out to us at info@dtrf.org so we can give you some more resources. And as well as listening to Amy today, of hearing a personal experience about the ups and downs of not only motherhood with a desmoid tumor, but also just conception and the options that may be available. Thank you again. It's the transparency. I'm a mom myself and had fertility issues. And even though I'm not living with a desmoid tumor, I know the emotional toll and that it takes on a whole family.
It's not. It took me a while to get to that where I'm like, okay, I'm still like, are you sure I can't carry? And all the doctors are like, no, Amy, don't even think about it. But I still have to ask
It's
because
optimism, it's just like, and then after you've
yeah,
experienced.
it's a hard, as like a mom, I feel like it's such a hard thing to accept that I can't
Mhm.
anymore.
Yeah.
So I've been working through that. And then when my cousin, God love her, she was my surrogate for my 3-year-old. And it was a beautiful experience.
Mhm.
And I'm just so blessed that she did that for us. And now I've got my really, she's a crazy girl, but she's awesome.
Absolutely incredible. I mean, talk about the intricacies of family, and
Mm,
that type of devotion and relationship is just remarkable. An incredible
mm,
opportunity for, again, to share the options that people may not know or think about, or to even consider,
mm.
until they hear somebody that's walked in your shoes, and can really relate to some of the concerns and real fears that you have,
Yeah.
as a mom, but also as someone that's thinking about motherhood in general.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So just to circle back a little bit to that diagnosis time,
Mhm.
and then the months after having, obviously, you have a baby at home,
Mhm.
newborn, got a definitive diagnosis. But what was it like talking to your family and friends in this period? Did anyone know what a desmoid tumor was? What was it like to try to explain it?
Nobody knew what a desmoid tumor was. Still in real life right now, I'm like, I'm 8.5 years in. And so I'm like, I'm like, a desmoid tumor, and they're like, I don't know those words.
Mhm.
Um, but we did, my family, we had no idea. And really, it came back as hypertension nerve bundles. That
Mhm.
is what it came back. So we were like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
And then it took another 2 weeks for Mayo Clinic to come back and say, no, it's a desmoid fibromatosis. And so we did a lot of research. Um, and what made me back then, which was so difficult, I'm like, this has turned my life upside down, but they used the word benign. And I was like, this is not at all my experience. I don't know how they're calling it that.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad now that that's not a thing, because they were like, I feel like they didn't know enough back then
Mhm.
to properly diagnose it as not benign. Um, but I was, for a long time, it took me a long time to even admit that I had something to anybody outside of just my family and close friends. Now I tell everybody, and
Yeah.
it scares them.
Yeah. We're going to get to that a little bit later. Yeah, about how, obviously, as you team, we've gotten to know you a little bit, and you're an open
Mhm,
book. And I mean, that's something that we just immediately love about you, and
mhm,
the transparency, because the awareness is just heightened to the max when people are able to share their stories in ways that we wouldn't have this option, that to share it with many people that have joined today. And I just want to take a moment to thank everybody for joining us that is on the live. We've got some people saying, hi, Amy. Greg and Teresa say they're so proud of you. And Martha says that you are an inspiration to us all. So I just want to pass along those words. And,
oh my
and
gosh.
as more people come in, to hear your story, we'll kind of circle back to some of the things so nobody misses some details, because we got a lot of time that we
Mm,
can share together. So we talked a little bit about the phenomenal support system that you have and the people
mhm.
that you rely on a day-to-day basis. But tell us a little bit more about your family and your friends, your community during during the last 8.5 years. Were there any sweet surprises that may have come up with your kids as they learned about your desmoid tumor?
Yeah. So, like I said, my family is a huge support system for me. We all live in the same neighborhood, which also helps because I've had a lot of medications I was on, a lot of complications with that. They were able to be here in 30 seconds. So that helps a lot too. But my family and my husband is so wonderful. He just picks up. I don't know anybody else like him who would be able to just go with the flow and pick up the pieces that I'm not able to do at the time. And he's really great. My kids, specifically my 10 and my 8-year-old, but they are the most compassionate humans. I was always so concerned how my diagnosis and my issues and my illness was going to affect them. And that's something I like think about a lot and I pray about a lot, all this stuff. And I my mom actually was like, Amy, look at how compassionate they are. So my 10-year-old, he's always like, Mom, what can I do? Or, he's always willing to help, or and they're just really, really so sweet.
Mhm.
I've been very open with my kids about my diagnosis. Um, they know that's why I can't carry the baby, and they call surrogates hotel bellies. They say the baby's on a vacation
Mhm.
in a hotel.
Yeah.
But they just really, the compassion that my diagnosis has instilled in my children is
Mhm.
just really cool to watch.
Yeah. That's
It's really
amazing.
cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely incredible, and it comes from that transparency, I think, and
Mhm.
building that deep bond with their mom and dad, in just really difficult moments and really
Mhm.
joy-filled moments that, it's one of our biggest fears as parents that anything that happens to us or that we do will affect our children's lives. So it's
Yeah.
really amazing to be able to have you share that there is something on the other side.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily we can, we're not gonna paint it as every single day with kids, but
Yeah.
it's one of those things that, does give people hope that you can go through this as a family together,
Mhm.
um, and share in a way that builds this empathy that, you never saw coming, and as they get older,
Yeah.
it just keeps growing. So that's definitely, I can see that happening. It's definitely my hope for you guys. And you just sound like you have a phenomenal support system that just keeps pouring into your kids as well as you.
Yeah. I
So,
really do. I've got a bunch of nieces and nephews,
mhm.
and they're like, "Aunt Amy, I prayed for you. I pray for you every day." And they're like, just so sweet. And like they'll have their classes like make me cards. It's just really cute.
Yeah.
It's just everybody is so wonderful and so helpful. And my community, I mean, I've had a bunch of my friends, they make me like dinners. They'll be like, I know you just had surgery. I'm gonna make you dinner. They just during my cryo ablations, um, they had I had a whole bunch of people bringing me stuff. It was really cool. I felt very special.
Yeah, that's incredible. And again, just having that support system really leads to my next question, which
Mhm.
is, how do you care for your mental health? Just on a day-to-day basis, or what are the things that you have seen in your own personal life that have really made a difference?
I didn't realize that mental health was one of the biggest hurdles in this
Mhm.
diagnosis. I was always very carefree. I was, I was going whichever way the wind. I was having the best time. I had no idea until it took me a while to accept the fact that I needed some help with my mental health, my anxiety. I was good up until I was told that I had the tumor again and it came back. And then my anxiety of, oh no,
Mhm.
you somebody can tell me that my life is turned upside down again. And that I just didn't realize how much of a toll my mental health was going to take. So for me, I do therapy, I do medication, I am on medication. And a big thing for me too is talking about it.
Yeah.
I learned that that helps a lot.
Mhm.
Even if it's just I have to say it to get it out there.
Yeah.
I'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm in so much pain. I'm okay,
Mhm.
but I'm in so much pain." I just have to put it out there so
Mhm.
and I can be like, "Okay, this is fine." Um, it's also, back to the whole not being able to carry my children. That weighs very heavily on me. So, um, I just, a lot of prayer and a lot of breathing techniques and all that kind of stuff, and just really having the support system.
Yeah.
medication is great. Therapy is
Yeah.
great.
That's right. Right. I mean, you just painted a beautiful picture that it's not a one size fits all model. It's not
Mhm,
one thing that makes the difference. It's a lot. It's like a puzzle, I like to say.
mhm,
And having gone through grief and mourning and my own personal traumas as well, like that those things, bottling them up, like you said, keeping them locked inside, we can see the ramifications that those cause over time. And
mhm,
your willingness to, like we've talked about, be an open book, um,
mhm.
be transparent with our team, but be willing to share your story on this live event, and then in countless other conversations in your life, that it is a day-to-day choice, right? To say,
Yeah.
I'm going to be transparent about this. I'm going to say exactly how I'm feeling in this moment.
Mhm.
Because it doesn't serve you to do anything else, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make anything better for anyone around you either. But that's really hard to get to that point.
Mhm.
Was there a time when you can pinpoint where there was a turning point in caring for yourself differently and caring for
I
your
would
mental health?
definitely say my second time being diagnosed.
Mhm,
I I wasn't on, that's when it started, and then I did a whole bunch of different I tried a couple of the chemotherapies
mhm,
and medications, and I actually lost all of my hair, and that was awful for me.
mhm,
And it's so silly because you're like, my body was going through it.
mhm,
I was going through it fully, but my losing my hair, I was like, uh-oh, I need a little bit of help here because I was
mhm,
looking in the mirror and I didn't know who that person was in there anymore.
mhm,
And so I needed to do something to help bring me back.
mhm. Absolutely. I think, and again, that just is so wonderful for you to admit, of
Mhm.
that moment of you seeing yourself in the mirror, because I know that's going to make a difference to a lot of people that have experienced similar or the same thing. And that turning point that you could recognize, like, I need help. I
Mhm.
need to change something, because this is not how I want to live, no matter how much pain you are in. But mentally being able to, I know from conversations we've had, be there for your kids and
Yeah.
be present and be a mom and a wife and a friend and a daughter and a sister,
Yeah.
and what toll that was taking, beyond just your desmoid tumor. And I think that that's what we hear time and time again is, being diagnosed is one thing, having treatments is one thing, but it's a full picture that people can't quite understand unless you talk to another patient, that's been through it. So,
Yeah, it took me about 4 years total to be like, "Okay, I think I need something."
mhm,
And I it took me even longer than that to be like, "I need a little something more." I recently started therapy, and
yeah,
it's been wonderful. Um, Again, everybody likes their own stuff, but for me, there's always a stigma around it, and then I'm like, "I just need a little extra something." So, taking care of myself was a big I realized I needed to take care of myself even with the pain. So when my
mhm,
pain goes up, my anxiety and my depression, that all
mhm,
like goes with it. So and I have chronic pain. So
mhm,
I have to be able to I have to help myself. I have to be there for myself and
yeah,
make myself good again so that I can, like you said, be a good mom, be
yeah.
there for my husband. If we got football, lacrosse practices, soccer practices. I don't have time to sit here and wallow.
Yeah. But also, I mean, I can tell, I mean, your heart is that you just want to be there,
Mhm.
and that
Yeah,
is, whether they need you or not, that you really want to be there because of how much you love your family.
yeah.
And I think that just we have some new people. Thank you guys for joining. I wanted to circle back to, we were talking about your initial diagnosis with the desmoid tumor, but you mentioned the second diagnosis. So give us a little window of like the timeline of when you were first diagnosed, the time in between, and then, when you found your next desmoid tumor.
Mhm. Okay, so I was diagnosed, originally they found the tumor in 2016, was diagnosed in 2017. So it was the end of 2016, early 2017. And then in 2018 was at my lake house. We were going boating. It was in July. It was the day before my birthday. I remember it so vividly. And I was like, something's wrong. I have the same feels. Like I said, it's the same feels. And so I was diagnosed again in 2018. In between those times, though, I had the original, because resection was the number one choice way back then. And we didn't realize that there was a huge, the rate of it coming back was crazy. So we didn't realize that at the time. We didn't even know what it was. So we're just doing our own thing. And it was I think it was a 7-hour surgery. And it was the tumor is so invasive. It got its way. It was on my bladder. It was affecting my liver. It was wrapped around my pelvic bone. It made its way into all of my muscle around there. So it was a very intense surgery. And I had a lot of complications from that. So I would have to go back in and go have surgery to fix some other stuff that was happening. So that was going on in between my original diagnosis and my second diagnosis. I was also diagnosed with endometriosis, which is funny to say now because, again, some doctors were like, well, maybe you're having endometriosis pain. No, different pain, but I was diagnosed with endometriosis. So they tried to give me a progesterone-only IUD to help with that. And we think that also helped in growing my tumor that was there. They were only able to get 90% of it from the original resection. So it just grew and yeah.
I know that, and for people that missed the original, kind of conversation at the beginning about your diagnosis, I think that just gives everybody a little bit more clearer picture of that timeline. And then obviously the difficulties that you had, not only being diagnosed, being misdiagnosed, and then also the complications that you had as a result. And I think, just to give us a little boost for right now, and we're going to have some questions later, but please feel free to keep commenting and asking questions, and we'll get to those at the end of our live for sure. But Elizabeth just wants to say thank you for your positivity. Amanda Nicole says you're absolutely amazing, Amy. Tiffany agreed with what we were talking about with mental health. It is absolutely the biggest hurdle, she says. And then we also had a question just about the complications you kind of talked about with chemo, just specifically related to that. You mentioned losing your hair, and then I prompted a little bit more of how we talked about mental health hurdles. But were there any other complications that you wanted to share?
Yeah, so I was on my way to having what they called press syndrome. So my blood pressure was skyrocketing and dropping. I had 2 small kids at the time. It was very scary. So I was like blacking out because my blood pressure would go really high and then immediately drop. So it was very, very scary. That was on one of the medications. On the other one, I got a port. And this is a couple months after the whole press syndrome and losing my hair completely. And then it started growing back. And I got a port. And the port threw a clot. And so I had a TIA. And that still gives me PTSD till this day. Anytime I feel anything remotely close to that, it puts me in I go panic mode. It's very scary for me. And for a couple years after that, it affected my brain in such a weird way that I would have random days where I would just sleep. And there would be no reason why I was so tired. It's just so bizarre. I went into anaphylactic shock with another one of them. And yeah, I mean, the weight gain, weight loss part of it too.
Mhm.
It's crazy. Again, you look at yourself, you're like, I don't know. When you lose like
Mhm.
20 pounds, you're like, who's that person? And then you gain another like 40. You're like, I don't know these people. Who are they?
Mhm. Mhm.
That was always very difficult. And then, of course, stuff with my liver and my pancreas that kind of put me in the hospital a whole bunch of times.
Yeah. No, we got to chat. Thank you again for everybody who's just joining too and getting connected with Amy and getting to listen to some of her story today. We were just talking about some chemo complications that she's experienced. And I had the honor of talking with you not too long ago, and our team did. But you mentioned just the amount of complications, the amount of
Mhm.
medical therapies. You mentioned cryoablation as well as surgery
Mhm.
initially after diagnosis. And you mentioned, I remember, I was just saying it's hard to keep track of everything that I've experienced. Everything I've experienced.
Yeah.
I've had. I feel like I've had everything.
Mhm.
I've done everything, and it just goes to show the. And I would love for you to speak more to this of just the scope of desmoid tumors, of like the nuance of the disease, the potential for misdiagnosis and misconception, but that often people have no idea the amount of different trial and error periods of medications or therapies that you've tried. So tell us a little bit about like what that feels like to look back on everything you've experienced.
Yeah. So well, looking back, sometimes I'm like, I am awesome.
You are awesome,
I did all
absolutely.
that, and look at me now. But
That's
then
right.
also, it's hard because some of the stuff that you go through, just because for a long time it was not been it was benign,
Mhm,
and it was benign, and
mhm,
everybody's like, oh well, I don't understand what the big deal is. This
mhm.
isn't a real issue.
Yeah.
Like I had, it's not like breast cancer. I'm like, yeah, but that is, you got to treat it. I'm still sitting here with a big
Mhm,
question mark. The one is not better than the other just
mhm.
because of what the benign word.
Yeah.
That was always such a difficult thing for me.
Mhm,
Looking back, being like a lot of people were trying to diminish my tumor
mhm.
because of how it was classified, just because it was so rare with not a lot of
Yeah.
information on
Mhm.
it. That was always so hard for me. I remember, like, I still to this day have like all these people who, even now, they're like, "Oh well, at least it's not a real cancer or something." You're like, "Whoa, okay." That doesn't mean it's not an annoyance. It's
Yeah.
just this is a real problem that I have. So
Yeah.
that's such a difficult thing for me looking back because that was in people's idea of what I had.
Mhm,
Like they don't know what I have and how horrible it is and how it's really affected me. And I'm 8.5 years in still
mhm.
going to get a biopsy tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm like, I did all that.
Mhm,
I came back from it, and I was most recently on a medication, and I just am like, oh my God, I've checked them all off. I'm doing what I can to fight for
mhm,
myself and my family and my kids, and
mhm.
yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that just again, we're going to talk a little bit more, just anybody else that's joined about desmoid tumor classification in just a little bit. Obviously, we have the Spread the Word campaign going on right now, and it's a big piece of the DTRF that
Mhm.
we want to spread far and wide. But to kind of circle back to the sensitivity of your tumor location,
Yeah.
it's something that we really love to talk to you about because, like we've mentioned, you're an open book and very candid about your desmoid tumor journey. How did you get to this place, and why was it important to just really be that open book and be transparent about where your tumor is located?
Yeah. So again, I scare a lot of people because I, at this point, forget that some people are very private about it. I'm like, it's in my vagina. They're like, oh, whoa.
Yeah.
But not a lot of people have it in this area.
Mhm.
And I didn't have anybody to look to. I was on the certain sites and I'm like, Googling the desmoid. I'm like, pelvic tumors. And now there's more people, but I was like, there's nobody there. And I tried everything. So I was like, if I can be a voice for somebody,
Mhm.
even just where it's at, or the fact that I had to get a surrogate, I can't carry, and like the infertility aspect of it all, I was like, if anybody needs something, we can kind of get together, but somebody has to say, I have a tumor in my vagina.
Yeah.
And I guess that's going to be me.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I've had doctors who, like, when I would say my vagina, they would like giggle a little. They didn't, and I'm like, this is not okay. I wonder how many
Yeah.
women feel so weird saying this about their body.
Mm-hmm.
It's where my tumor is. Like, I'm not just coming in to try to say funny words to make you uncomfortable. This is real life.
Yeah.
So I've gotten really comfortable with it. I always joke, I'm like so comfortable now that I'm going to go to the dentist and just be like, all right, and accidentally drop my drawers, because that's just where I'm at these days. I'm always doing that now. So I always joke about it.
Yeah.
But,
And 8.5 years in, I mean, I don't know how you couldn't be, right? And also just breaking down, like you said, there's nothing to be ashamed of. And I think that
No.
that's the big message today, of understanding that using the correct terminology, using the medical terminology as well, of saying vagina or rectum and where that's located, is just going to be such a gift in the long run for other women that have a tumor there as well, have a desmoid there, and that won't be afraid potentially to kind of linger in that discomfort, right? Is what you were saying about it made the doctors uncomfortable, and they weren't able to articulate that in the moment. So that reaction happened, right?
Yeah. They weren't expecting me to be so open either, because I'm like, this is what I have, and this is where it is, and this is how it feels.
Yeah.
And they were very uncomfortable with that. And it made me sad, because I'm somebody who's I'll just tell you, I'm like, this is it. But for somebody who's a little more private and maybe not as comfortable, it makes me sad. So I'm like, if I can scream it loud and proud, and hopefully somebody can be like, oh, look I can do that too.
Yeah. And also they can reach out in private, because now that they've heard someone be open, it works both ways, and everybody's journey is very different. And how they want to express things are very different in their stories. But again, I just thank you for your ability to be that open book we talked about. Because as women, I think it takes a lot of confidence to do that. And everything that you've been through on top of it, it should be the least of your worries. But it tends to be, it becomes again just a moment of being ashamed of not wanting to say. And again, I think it goes to show, currently in your desmoid journey, you mentioned you're getting a biopsy tomorrow. I would love to hear more about just the last few months. Like, where are you currently in your desmoid tumor journey? We talked about initial diagnosis. We talked about the recurrence that happened. If there's any other details leading up to obviously 8.5 years of living with a desmoid, I wish we could cover all of it right now, but you've given us so much information already. What is it like right now? Give us a kind of glimpse into that.
Yeah, so right now I actually found, I'm in Cincinnati. I'm going to Ohio State tomorrow to get a biopsy and an exam under anesthesia. My scans, because I did the cryoablation, I was on one of the treatments. My scans are coming back very positive, but with my tumor pain that I'm feeling, they're like, we need to see what's in there still. Because I've got some muscle that, like I said, it's already infiltrated on a bunch of muscle. They want to make sure it didn't infiltrate the specific muscle. They want to see what cells are still around there. But my scans are coming back really great. Something I've been struggling with is I was getting them read wrong for the past year. I was at a doctor who wasn't sure what they were looking at, was telling me these are great. A specialist, and she's like, Amy, these are being read wrong. That's been my year. It's been interesting. But my scans are really truly showing some positive stuff. I've been on treatment for almost a year now, and like I said, it stopped in January. So I think that it's the new one. I think it was working, which is amazing.
Mhm.
But they want to make sure that it's not, they want to see what's all going on in there
Yeah,
tomorrow. So that's
absolutely.
where that's at. It's been, I did learn, and I learned this a long time ago. My original doctor that I had 8 years ago, we learned desmoids together. She
Mhm,
was so wonderful and
mhm,
so hands on. And she always took it so serious. And she was like, the MRIs don't always show.
mhm,
She's like, I cut you open. And I was in there for 7 hours, and this didn't show this.
mhm,
And so I've been kind of fighting that. And then I found doctors up at Ohio State who have that same, they're like, no, we've seen it where the MRIs are just, they're a great starting point, but we need to go in to really see what's going on. They're not going to cut or anything like that, but they're like, we need to go in
yeah.
and really check it out.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I know just before we got on the live today, and again, thank you for everybody that's tuned in. We're going to get to some questions
Mhm.
in just a little bit, so I'd love for you to send us some questions or comments if you have any, so we can try to squeeze those in before we wrap up with Amy today. But you've mentioned your medical team a few times, and I know that
Mhm.
that's a whole nother story that I wish we could go through today. But you have found a phenomenal medical team that you can really rely on,
Mhm.
um, and just and before we got on the call today, you told me about the biopsy, and this was kind of an abrupt
Mhm.
decision this week that you didn't know this was coming. So I know a lot of newly diagnosed patients, some may be on the live today or may watch in the future. Um, what advice do you have for a newly diagnosed patient when you think about the abruptness that you're experiencing right now, but also the diagnosis, coming in when you were 7 months pregnant,
Mhm.
and it being shocking then? What advice do you have for them?
Yeah. I would say you know your body best.
Mhm,
So you have to find a doctor who aligns with you in that way. I've had some doctors tell me that I was not feeling what I was feeling.
mhm,
And that's why you got to get your second opinion, third opinion. You got to find a doctor who is like, oh, I believe you that this is what you're feeling. Not, oh, no, that's not what textbook desmoids say.
mhm,
I definitely find a specialist. That has been game changer for me. Um, like I said, I learned desmoids with my original doctor, and she really put her heart and soul into learning everything. And she
mhm,
actually became kind of a specialist in her own right.
yeah,
So that was really great. And then I now see the gynec and a surgical specialist,
mhm,
desmoid specialist now, and they just really, it makes a world of a difference when you have somebody on your side who
mhm,
believes you, one, and who is like, just because this says textbook desmoid doesn't mean your desmoid is following that.
yeah,
Um, and take care of your mental health.
mhm. That's
Yeah,
phenomenal.
that's
Yeah.
a big one. And,
Mhm,
there are things I don't ever want to be defined as only a desmoid patient. So I'm trying, gotta live your life. So you've got to find a good balance
mhm,
of, this is part of my life, but it's not totally my life.
mhm.
And you will have ups and downs where you're going to see somebody on Tuesday for the first time and they're going to say, we'll see you Friday for the biopsy. You
Yeah,
just gotta roll with it.
yeah. That's phenomenal advice. I think that that's just really going to be, we hear it time and again about the team and rallying and finding the
Mhm.
right specialists. Easier said than done, right? And,
Oh, yeah.
like I said, I wish we could go through Amy's whole story about
It's been
she
crazy.
landed in this medical team,
Mhm.
and the changes that she had to pivot and move to different doctors and all of that. But I think it's phenomenal advice for someone who is newly diagnosed, and finding the right people and connecting with the right resources is something that, again, as a patient, you're just leading them in the right direction, and then obviously caring for their mental health, like we talked about earlier. If you missed it
Mhm.
earlier, please go back and watch a little bit about what Amy said about what she has made, how her choices led to different mental health strategies and ways that work for her. And everybody's experience experience is, different, but that's a wonderful, wonderful place to start for advice. As far as some of the things that we have kind of touched on earlier, this is a brand new thing that's coming up. You're planning a fundraiser with your brother this
Mhm.
year. Tell us a little bit about your why behind fundraising this year, and where did the idea come from?
Yeah, so we actually did a fundraiser. My brother and sister-in-law did a fundraiser about 3 years ago, and it was very successful. It really was. I had a newborn at the time. So it was kind of just a chill one, but it was very successful. And I thought, what better time to do it than now
Mhm.
when I am getting these positive scans and really the whole spread the word campaign. That's huge for me. I'm like, this needs to be shouted from the rooftops. We live on a golf course, and my family's big golfers. Not me. They are.
Me either.
They are. And I was like, and where I live in Cincinnati, there's a lot of big golfers here
Mhm.
in the community we live in, and it's everybody loves it. So I was like, this would be a really perfect opportunity to just really get the word out there.
Yeah. That's phenomenal, and we just
Yeah.
appreciate it so much. I know that we'll be in touch a lot about
Mhm.
that in the future, but we
Yeah.
definitely seen just an incredible amount um, of of desmoid awareness of desmoid tumor patients leading different sporting events and golf tournaments, and it's just
Mhm.
they've had just a phenomenal experience and from start to finish. And so I'm just really hopeful that that's how it'll be for your family too. And obviously, not having a newborn as well, but also just not again, hopefully the biopsy tomorrow and you'll get through that and take it
Mhm.
step by step of what's next
Yeah. Well,
to
that's where I got my
experience.
Team Amy shirt from my
Yeah,
last
I
one.
was gonna point that out. That was the past fundraiser,
Yeah,
right?
that was my past fundraiser. My
Yep.
sister also, she has a big following on TikTok.
Yeah,
She's a little influencer on TikTok. It's
that's awesome.
very exciting. I
Mhm.
don't know much about it, but I love it. But she wants to do something too.
Yeah.
I think she's got like 50,000 followers, something crazy, like an astronomical amount of followers. And she wants to do something and get it over on that
Mhm.
platform as well, which I think would be really cool.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure out different things that we can do
Yeah.
to spread the word.
Yeah, I mean, it's just great ideas. I mean, I think that's what we walked away, our team walked away with, just the energy that not only you have and the ideas, but your family is right along with
Mhm.
you. And when we talked
Yeah.
about your support system earlier, I mean, obviously that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Like next step is like, what else can we do?
Yeah,
There's
they're my number one supporters,
yeah,
and they came to me. My brother's like, "What if we do this?" Actually,
yeah.
both of my brothers have said it at some point. They're like, "What if we do this?" And I'm like, "You guys just want to golf."
Hey, we'll take it as
But
as
I'll
many
take it.
golfer as
Yeah.
many golfers that want to show up as
I'll
possible.
join. Sure.
That's right. Well, you mentioned, and I talked a little bit about classification earlier of desmoid tumors, and
Mhm.
you mentioned our Spread the Word campaign, that desmoid tumors are not benign. They are not classified as benign. And we started this campaign to really target and correct common misconceptions about the classification of desmoid
Mhm.
tumors. So, as you know, Amy, but I want to make sure that everybody that you will either will watch this recording or are tuning in right now, that they know desmoid tumors or aggressive fibromatosis, desmoid fibromatosis, or desmoid type fibromatosis do
Mhm.
not metastasize. They are classified by the World Health Organization as intermediate, locally aggressive, soft tissue tumors. They don't fall into the benign category or the malignant classifications deemed by the World Health Organization.
Mhm.
So, building on that definition, that classification, and the research that's evident, we really want to make sure that we are spreading the word. Like you said, shout it from the rooftops, spread it far and
Mhm.
wide, that this is the actual classification. And again, you've talked about misdiagnosis, misconception in your own journey, and then we hear it from tons of patients that we get the chance to talk with, just like you. But why is it important to you? I think you've mentioned it a little bit, to spread the word specifically about this classification that desmoids are not benign?
I feel like when you say benign, you don't get taken as serious as this diagnosis actually is. People
Mhm,
don't take it very serious. So for it to not be classified that, I would hope that some doctors don't look at it like I keep saying, as somebody has said it to me, as an annoyance.
mhm,
And I'm like, it has taken over my whole insides. It's not just an annoyance. That's one big reason I think it is huge. Another is if you have a benign tumor, insurance doesn't like to cover things for your therapies, whatever it may be, chemotherapy, immunotherapy, or whatever it's called. And they won't cover it for that because it's not classified as cancer or whatever it may be. It's
mhm,
classified as benign.
mhm,
And that makes me so sad because
mhm,
I'm grateful that my doctors have always taken me serious and they've seen how much pain I'm in and how even from the beginning how serious this was. And I just hope that other doctors now can follow that and be
mhm.
like, oh, this isn't just an annoyance. This is a real big thing for these people in their lives.
Absolutely. And I know, obviously, the severity and your own personal experience. And I thank you so much for being a part of this campaign in
Mm,
this time, because it's exciting for us to really take a stand in this space and rely on the facts and rely on the research that
yeah.
this is the classification, that an international organization has, made this very, very public, but it's really hard to disseminate information and to
Mhm.
write and re-educate, not only the clinical population, but the patient and caregiver population that may not have gotten this information either. So I think that I just really appreciate you being able to, stand in that definition. And for anybody else watching, just
Mhm.
to visit our Facebook page, or Instagram or any of our social channels during this time. It'll live there forever and we'll continue it. But just to share that definition, that World Health Organization classification, as much as we can. And we've already seen such a huge response. And again, this conversation just gives that one more level up to
Mhm.
really hear the support behind it. Um, so just to kind of get ourselves to wrap up here before we have a little bit of question and answer time, if people want to connect with you after watching, where can they find you, or how should they connect?
Yeah, so just Amy Bites on Instagram, Facebook. So AMYBEITZ. And then on TikTok is Amy, and it's BEETZ because Bites was taken. So
They get creative.
yeah, so Amy BEETZ. But yeah, so I would love if people reached out to me. I think that is so important to find somebody that you can
Mhm.
be like, hey, I have this feeling and I know you do too. And we have it's a very isolating thing if you don't have somebody. So I want to be there for whoever needs me, even if it's infertility stuff, because that's also very hard. So
Mhm.
I have a lot of experience, unfortunately, but fortunately. So I would love it if people would reach out and yeah, we can start conversations.
Yeah. How about personally? I mean, have you had, great connections that you found online and
Oh
moments
yeah.
when you needed them? I think that would definitely help anybody that's newly diagnosed that's listening.
Yeah, I actually did an interview a couple years ago with SpringWorks,
Mhm.
and it was on the Today Show, and I had so many people reach out to me. I was like, "This is amazing. Look at this community," and they were all like, "I'm so glad somebody's out there."
Mhm.
It made me I was like, "This is huge. Why isn't more people talking about this?" So, I've had a lot of people already reach out to me, and I absolutely love it because we can share our experiences, and it's really interesting, and you also don't feel so alone because you're like, "Oh, they have it too. They feel what I feel."
Absolutely. Anybody that just hopped on, we were just talking about just connection and where to find Amy. And obviously, this recording will be available after our live, but just encourage you to connect if you feel like it's the right thing. And if not with Amy, with someone else, and especially the DTRF team, please reach out so we can get you connected with a community to feel less isolated, and have a broader range of support.
Mhm.
Now, just like a little caveat, we hear that you are a baker.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing to bake?
I actually have chocolate chip cookies sitting in my fridge right now.
Mhm,
Getting ready to bake those. I anything in the kitchen. I love cooking. I love baking.
mhm.
Anything. A lot of times when I'm feeling good, my family will be like, "Oh, Amy's feeling good because she's baking or she's cooking, she's making bread."
Nice. I love
That's
that.
they're like,
I
"Oh,
love
she's feeling good."
Yeah, that's a great tell. I would say that that's one of the best tells that I would have.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah, they're
benefits
like, "Oh,
when you
she's making lasagna again." Like
Yeah.
she's feeling good.
That's amazing. We're going to get to some questions
Mhm.
in just a second, but I just wanted to just thank you so much for sharing your story again with everyone today, and the fact that this live will live in our video library forever, so people can revisit this anytime that they need to hear your story, or hear some of
Yeah.
your advice, which is just a huge gift. And just a quick reminder, if anybody has any last minute questions, please feel free to share them in the chat, and we'll do a little short Q&A here as we wrap up. But yeah, I think the main thing, let's see, we just had a comment from Monica, who is also a fellow desmoid tumor patient. She's been fighting a leg tumor for the past 6 years, and
Mhm.
she's been through a lot, but she wanted to say that she's thankful to be here, and hopefully she will overcome this.
Oh, hi, Monica. Well, if you wanna reach out and just talk to somebody,
Mhm.
I'm here for you because
Absolutely.
I know what you're feeling. It's sometimes you're sitting there like, "Ugh," every day you're like, "Again, it's here."
Yeah.
It's not gone. You wake up thinking it's gonna be gone, it's not gone. So
Mhm.
I'm here for you, and you will get through it, and, I'm grateful we have this platform to do this because how wonderful and how special that we get to speak to each other and share our experiences.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thanks, Amy. And thanks, Monica. Just a last reminder, if there's any other questions, but what are the top 3 things you would say that you've learned about yourself during this journey with a desmoid tumor?
I would say I'm a fighter. I didn't know that. I didn't know how resilient I was. But that definitely is one.
Yeah.
Um, and I always knew that I had a great support system. So, two would be that I have the best of the best around me, always helping me, lifting me up, whatever they can do, including my kids. Like, they are just always so wonderful. And then let's see here. What else have I learned about myself? Um, I guess I don't know. I guess that I really am there for myself. I have found doctors that I always say you're your own um you have with doctors you have to find the right doctors and you have to really push for what you think is right and I've did that and I'm really proud of myself for that.
Yeah, well, it definitely shows in this conversation and the ones that I was honored to get to be a part of prior to this too, that you are an incredible advocate for yourself, but for other
Mm,
desmoid tumor patients, and aren't afraid to speak up and aren't afraid to be transparent. And I thank you so much for being here today. I don't think we have any other questions unless we have anyone coming in. But I just wanted to wrap it up and say thank you again. This has just been such a gift for us and for the DTRF team, but for everybody watching as well. I loved getting to spend time with you today, and I just can't wait to keep in touch. And I'll be thinking about you tomorrow, as you travel to get your biopsy, and we'll definitely check in to see how you're doing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I was so excited about this.
Yeah, that's amazing, Amy. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
All right, everybody. As we continue our work at the DTRF in 2025, we want to be sure you don't miss a beat when it comes to desmoid tumor news or DTRF updates. please be sure to subscribe to our newsletter if you haven't already done so, and follow our social channels too to get plugged in. Thank you so much again for tuning in today in honor of Rare Disease Day. Don't forget to share this recording and others in our extensive DTRF video library at dtrf.org to continue spreading desmoid tumor awareness all year long. Thanks. See you soon.